How do the super rich legally pay almost no taxes? It's not through some shady offshore scheme you see in movies. It's a surprisingly simple, yet brilliant strategy called buy, borrow, die. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on this financial playbook of the wealthy. Stick around because understanding this could fundamentally change how you think about money, wealth, and taxes. First, let's get our basics straight. Imagine you have two people, Alex and Ben. Alex earns a high salary, say $500,000 a year. This is what we call income. In most countries, income is taxed. The more you earn, the higher your tax rate. Here's the crucial difference. Owning assets isn't a taxable event. You could own $1 billion in stocks, and as long as you don't sell them, you don't owe any income tax on that $1 billion. The value can grow, and the taxman can't touch it. This is a concept called unrealized gains. The government only taxes you when you realize the gains, meaning when you sell the asset for a profit. The wealthy understand this distinction perfectly, and it's the foundation of the buy, borrow, die strategy. So, let's dive into the first step. Buy. The wealthy use their money not to spend on lavish lifestyles directly, but to buy assets that are likely to appreciate in value over time. We're talking about blue-chip stocks, prime real estate in growing cities, or shares in promising private companies. Their primary goal is to accumulate a portfolio of these appreciating assets. They're playing the long game. They buy and hold. This isn't about day trading or trying to get rich quick. It's about systematically building a mountain of wealth that grows on its own, year after year, all while staying under the tax radar. Now, you might be thinking, okay, they own all this stuff. But how do they pay for their yachts, mansions, and private jets if they don't have a high cash income? That's where the second genius step comes in, borrow. When you or I need money, we usually think of getting a job or selling something we own. The wealthy have a third, much better option. Instead of selling their stocks or real estate and triggering a massive tax bill, they go to a bank and take out a loan using their massive asset portfolio as collateral. Think about it from the bank's perspective. Loaning money to someone with $1 billion in stocks is incredibly safe. If the borrower defaults, the bank can just take a small piece of their portfolio to cover the debt. Because it's so low risk for the bank, they offer these loans at incredibly low interest rates, often just 1 or 2%. And here's the magic trick. A loan is not income. When you receive a loan, it's considered debt. You don't pay income tax on it. So, the wealthy can borrow millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars against their assets, live a luxurious lifestyle, and pay zero income tax on that cash. They're essentially spending their wealth without ever having to sell it or pay tax on its growth. Plus, the interest they pay on the loan is often tax deductible, especially if the loan is used for investment purposes, further reducing any small tax bill they might have. This creates a powerful cycle. They buy assets, the assets grow in value, they borrow against that increased value to fund their life and buy even more assets. The portfolio gets bigger, allowing them to borrow more, and the cycle continues. Their wealth is constantly compounding while their taxable income remains near zero. It's a financial engine that runs on borrowed money and asset appreciation, all happening outside the traditional income tax system. This brings us to the final and perhaps most mind-boggling part of the strategy, die. I know, it sounds a bit morbid, but from a financial planning perspective, it's the masterstroke that makes this whole system work across generations. Let's go back to our assets. Remember how we said you only pay tax on the profit when you sell? This profit is called a capital gain. For example, if you buy a stock for $10 and sell it for $100, you have a $90 capital gain that gets taxed. But a special rule comes into play when someone dies. It's called the stepped-up basis. When the wealthy individual passes away and leaves their massive portfolio to their heirs, the cost basis of those assets gets stepped up to its market value on the date of death. Let's make that concrete. Imagine our billionaire bought a stock for $10 and now it's worth $1,000. If they had sold it, they'd owe capital gains tax on 990 Australian dollars profit. But instead, they hold it until they die. Their children inherit that stock. For tax purposes, it's as if the children bought the stock for $1,000. The original $990 of growth, that massive unrealized gain, is never ever taxed. it vanishes from the perspective of the IRS. The heirs can then immediately sell the stock for $1,000 and pay zero capital gains tax. This is how generational wealth is created and preserved. The die step effectively wipes the tax slate clean. The immense appreciation that occurred over a lifetime is passed on tax-free, allowing the next generation to start the buy, borrow, die cycle all over again, but from a much, much higher starting point. While there can be estate taxes for very large estates, there are numerous legal trusts and planning tools the wealthy use to minimize or even eliminate those as well. So, let's recap the entire strategy. 1. Buy appreciating assets like stocks and real estate and hold them. Don't sell. 2. When you need cash, borrow against your assets at very low interest rates. This is tax-free money. Use it to live and to buy more assets. 3. Die. Pass your assets to your heirs with a stepped-up basis, which erases all the taxable gains you've accumulated over your entire life. It's a powerful trifecta that allows wealth to be built, spent, and transferred with minimal tax friction. Now, is this fair? That's a huge debate. Proponents argue that it encourages long-term investment and capital formation, which is good for the economy. It incentivizes people to build businesses and invest in innovation. Critics, on the other hand, argue that it's a massive loophole that creates a dynastic class of ultra-wealthy who don't contribute their fair share to the society that enables their success. It exacerbates wealth inequality, as this strategy is really only available to those who already have significant assets to begin with. Regardless of where you stand on the ethics, understanding the mechanics of buy, borrow, die is incredibly important. It reveals that the tax code doesn't treat all money the same. There's a world of difference between earned income from a salary and wealth generated from capital. While most of us live in the world of income tax, the ultra-wealthy operate in a completely different financial universe. So, what can the average person take away from this? While you might not be borrowing millions against a stock portfolio tomorrow, the core principles are valuable. First, prioritize owning assets over just earning a high income. Even small, consistent investments in things that can grow over time, like a retirement account or an index fund, can make a huge difference. Second, understand the power of holding for the long term and letting your investments compound. Resisting the urge to sell during market dips is key. Finally, be aware of the tax implications of your financial decisions. Knowing the difference between earned income and capital gains can help you plan more effectively for your own financial future. This isn't financial advice, but a look into a different way of thinking about wealth. The rules of the game are out there, and the more we understand them, the better we can navigate our own financial journeys. What do you think about this strategy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you found this insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of finance. See you in the next one.